Well, it's that time of year again, and I wonder if you can cast your mind back to childhood days when we'd while away entire afternoons scouring through the home shopping catalogues like Kay's, Grattan and Argos, scribbling circles around our favourite toys and games in the hope that maybe, on Christmas morning, we'd find at least one or two of them nestled under the tree. I'm Retro Steve UK, and I'd like to welcome you to this Retrospectives Christmas special. We're going to be taking a look together through the toy section of the Winter 1980 Argos catalogue. There are about 16 double-page spreads to look through, and on each one I'll be singling out my personal favourites, the toys and games I'd have been most chuffed to receive as a child. And if you disagree with my choices, or if you want to mention anything else about the other items on these pages, do make your presence felt in the comments section. Now for this video I've sourced Argos pages from the Internet Archive, which has a random selection of Argos catalogues. However, for a full collection of almost every Argos catalogue from the 1970s, 80s and 90s, I can recommend visiting Michael Hayes' website, retromash.com, which is a fascinating archive of memorable 70s, 80s and 90s retro geekery and news. You'll find links to these sites in the video description. So let's skip to the back of the catalogue now, past the boring jewellery, home goods and kitchenwares, and get right down to business with the best Christmas toys from 1980. Pages 230 to 262 contain the good stuff, so we'll be starting there, and it's a strong start with some iconic games consoles. These TV Pong games on the right here were pretty ubiquitous at the time, and there were a lot of variations made by different companies. Notice the Kevin Keegan endorsed machine in the top right, which had exactly the same games as the other machines. At home we had the Binatone machine pictured here at number 4, but ours didn't have the light gun attachment, so we only had 4 of the 6 games. The main event for me, however, is the exciting looking Atari VCS, which had much more advanced games and interchangeable cartridges, which offered far more long-term variety than the simplistic tennis and Pong games. I never had one originally, as it was out of our price range, but I do have one now, and it still works. Believe it or not, I got hold of mine back in the 90s after somebody had thrown it away. It was in a cardboard box on the pavement next to someone's bin bags. They put it out for the bin men, and guess what? I was the bin man. Lucky escape from the landfill for that old console, and it's still sitting on the shelf in my spare room to this very day. There's a smashing selection of old electronic games here, including some holdovers from the 1970s. Some of these are quite primitive, but there are 1 or 2 iconic machines in here. Speak and Spell is obviously quite well known, and I know a lot of you have mentioned Merlin in the comment sections of various videos, but for me it's a toss-up between Computer Battleship and Simon. We actually had Computer Battleship back in the day, and had a lot of fun playing it as a family with those electronic whistling missile sounds and explosions whenever you got hit. My first choice though has to be Simon. I only ever got to play it at a friend's house who owned one, and I absolutely loved it. It was fun and frustrating in equal measure, but always had that just one more go quality that you needed in a game to keep you coming back for more. It's a classic toy that can still be purchased today, and the modern version is, mercifully, a faithful recreation of the 1980s original. That's well worth a look if you want to sample some 1980s nostalgia. More iconic toys on this next page, and a nice selection of some of the more obscure Scalextric type slot car racing toys that were available at the time, including racing sets from Matchbox and Aurora. The 2 remote control cars in the middle include the School of Motoring radio control model and the cheaper Interstate Crime Buster from Corgi, which wasn't a true RC car but used clicking sounds from the controller to initiate directional changes. A couple of pinball games in the bottom left, Atomic Pinball and Wildfire Pinball, both from Palitoy, but the 2 most iconic toys which I had trouble choosing between are Big Track and Tin Can Alley. Both of these had TV adverts that made them look really exciting. I wanted both of these back in 1980, but I never ended up getting either. The one I choose now, in hindsight, has to be Tin Can Alley, but only because so many people who had Big Track have told me over the years that it was a short-lived novelty and was never as good as the TV ad made it look. Although I never had Tin Can Alley, I was able to scratch that shooting game itch when I got my Sega Master System in 1989 with the light phaser gun that let you shoot targets on the TV screen. The slot car racing fun continues on pages 236 and 7 with 2 super looking TCR sets and a much cheaper, simpler battery operated Super Track set. I never played on a TCR set, and I was always baffled by the adverts which showed the cars racing without slots and having the ability to overtake each other. I've looked into these Total Control Racing TCR sets since, and I now understand how they worked, but I'd still rather have a traditional slot-based Scalextric set. Apparently there's an ongoing debate over whether TCR is better than Scalextric, so where do you stand on this question? If you have an opinion on that, go ahead and share it in the comments. We also get a couple of train sets from Hornby and Lima Models, and a few car toys that you'll be able to use with your existing collection of model die-cast vehicles. There's a basic play map, 2 garage playsets from Matchbox and Toyworks, a Scorcher Chamber, Wall of Death, and in the bottom right, a Streak racing set, which I had when I was a boy. These were simple but great fun and gave you a flexible track setup that you could zoom your toy cars along for mad jumps and loop-the-loops. The main event, however, will be that undeniably iconic Evel Knievel stunt bike down in the bottom left of the second page. This will obviously be a popular choice as it's a toy that's very much in the public mainstream consciousness. I never had one, but I do have memories of trying one out and not being able to get it to work properly. And for this reason, for me, my top choice here is the Streak racing set. I just got so many hours of fun out of this thing, and I spent a lot of time setting it up in different rooms, propped up on different pieces of furniture, and trying to get my cars to jump as high and far as possible. It really sparked my imagination as I tried to come up with new ways to use it creatively, and this is still the toy I pick now as an adult if I wanted to have some guilty pleasure playtime fun. Some smashing toy cars here, no pun intended, in the top left. Stock Car Smash Up and Slam Bam Sam. These toys are designed to be smashed up and rebuilt multiple times. I think there was a version of this in the 90s based on the Crash Test Dummies cartoons. A fair bit of Action Man stuff here too, figures, vehicles and an aerial slide training tower, all in the Action Man range from Palitoy. And there's a pair of Corgi military walkie-talkies as well, in keeping with the war theme. Also from Palitoy at the top there, a couple of Star Wars toys. A figure of Darth Vader himself and a Stormtrooper laser rifle. This reminded me of a very early TV advert for Star Wars toys where they referred to Darth Vader as Darth Vader. Now I'd love to see that old ad again, but I've never been able to find it. Honourable mention for the odd looking ROM robot next to Darth Vader, who apparently has flashing eyes and according to the description has 5 electronic programs, whatever that means. Over on the right we get a selection of spaceship toys. Starbird makes acceleration and deceleration noises depending on whether it's pointed up or down, and we also have the accompanying Starbird command base there next to it, which quite frankly looks pretty awesome. I used to have a similar toy called the Interceptor, which was an aeroplane that did the same acceleration noise thing. Not sure how I ended up with that in the UK though, as it's quite an obscure toy from an Italian toy company called Polystil. The Phantom 4 hovercraft below the Starbird is a flying saucer type thing that's launched from its base station and glides, hovers and spins on a cushion of air, and the Micronauts remote control battle cruiser space jet below that can apparently be turned into 8 different spaceship configurations. The Stretch Armstrong inspired Stretch Hulk and Stretch X-Ray to the left here do exactly what it says on the box. They stretch up to 4 times their normal size and then shrink back down again. Now I had a decent collection of stuff in the Action Man range in the 1980s, including that Jeep there on the page, and a gyrocopter for Action Man to fly around in, but I never had the aerial slide training tower, and I'd always imagined how much fun it would be to launch my Action Man from the top of that thing, at speed, down the aerial slide. So for me, this is the toy that I'd pick as my top choice from this particular page. Well, we've officially hit the Lego section by the look of it, and I really love the simplicity of these Lego sets from the 1980s before we started getting a lot of the licensed stuff that we see so much of these days. I do remember getting that 744 Advanced Lego set in the bottom left there for a birthday present, but I was a little too young for it, so I remember getting upset and hiding in my bedroom when I couldn't work out how to build that bleeding windmill. I came downstairs later on and my mum and dad had kindly built it for me, and I felt a little bit silly. I did enjoy playing with it though, once it was built, so thanks Mum and Dad. Bottom right and we get a selection of toys for kids on the brainier side. There's a Linker brick and stonework model building set, a microscope lab, science and chemistry sets, and a set of electricity and magnetism experiments. Of all the toys available on this page, I think I'd have to go with that advanced Lego set that upset me so much when I was little. I think if I could get my hands on it now at age 50, I'd have a better chance of understanding the instructions and probably even try my hand at making the other models featured on the box, which I never even bothered trying the first time round. A few classics on pages 242 and 243, starting with those Play-Doh sets in the top left. The creepy looking drill and fill has you creating teeth out of Play-Doh that you can then sadistically drill, like the demented dentist from the Little Shop of Horrors movie. I originally had the Fuzzy Pumper Play-Doh barbershop set next to that, and it was always great fun pumping Play-Doh through the barber's chair and into the customers' bodies and watching their hair grow long or getting set into a perm with the clamp-on head mould. Good times. And below those it's the Big Badge Factory and the Disco Puff paint set, which both let you make your own badges. The horror makeup set is another I remember having, but I also remember not really being able to get the makeup to look as good as it did in the pictures. Alongside that, it's a talking dusty bin for fans of the 321 game show, and the Busby talking telephone, which quoted phrases from the British Telecom mascot Busby whenever you answered the toy phone. Top middle now, and it's Harbut's Fun Stuff Space Adventure Set, which appears to be a Play-Doh knockoff, which allowed you to mould your own rockets, spacemen and aliens. Next to that is the exciting looking Corgi Movie Vision. This was a device that played short movies on the built-in screen or projected them onto a wall, and had collectible cartridges that could be inserted into the machine for different films. There's a smashing video on Techmoan's channel demonstrating this machine, which I highly recommend, and I've put a link to that in the description. Arguably the most iconic toy here, next to the luxury casino set, is good old Mr. Frosty. So many people wanted one of these but never got one that it's now a standing joke, and I'm including myself in that set of people because I desperately wanted one, thinking I'd be getting free Slush Puppy drinks on tap. In reality, from what I've heard, it wasn't great, and the end result were sort of small cups of disappointing, uninspiring flavoured crushed ice. Finishing off the page in the bottom right, we got Spirograph, Magnadoodle, a coin sorting cash register, and a telephone intercom set with 30 feet of cable, which actually sounds like great fun if you had siblings in different bedrooms. I was going to choose Mr. Frosty for obvious reasons, but knowing what I know now about the disappointing end results it produced, it's now a toss-up between the Corgi Movie Vision and the Big Badge Factory. Although I love the idea of creating customised badges, I can't ignore the love I've always had for anything to do with audio-visual equipment, so it has to be the Movie Vision for me as my top pick from this page. For the budding musicians out there, this page is fantastic, with guitars, piano keyboards, an accordion, and an odd-looking toy at the top there called a Magical Musical Thing, which seems to be part guitar and part keyboard. If you want to be a girl about town, the Girl About Town set is probably for you. A purse, handbag, wallet and umbrella in a box. If you'd rather be a secretary, the Petite SuperTouch AT typewriter will set you on the right path, or if you'd just love to be a stereotypical housewife, why not go for the washing machine, Minimum cleaning set, the Hoover Junior vacuum cleaner or the Petite sewing machine. The most iconic toy on this page has to be the Home Pride baking set, located underneath the double-sided chalkboard. My sister had one of these, and it's an extremely cute and very creative model of Fred the Flower Grader from the Home Pride TV adverts. His hat is a flour sifter, his head is a mixing bowl, his feet are pastry moulds, and his little hands are holders for the mixing spoon and rolling pin. It also comes with other accessories which, if I remember correctly, can be stored inside his head. Two items are vying for my top spot here. The first is the full-size Bontempi Reed organ at number 4, simply because I started learning to play music at age 17 and I've always regretted not starting much earlier. That, however, is quite boring, so I'm going to pick Fred the Flower Grader's baking set as my favourite because it's just so completely delightful, and it conjures up nostalgic memories of those old Home Pride TV adverts, and we all know how I feel about old adverts, right? Another one my sister had here in the top left, Girls World, is a disembodied head that let you practice your makeup and hairdressing skills, with a growing hair feature and various makeup and hairstyling accessories included. A cheaper knockoff version is next to that, and the more expensive Super Girls World at number 3 here has tilting eye movement, a changeable eye colour feature and a greater range of accessories including shampoo and conditioner. Further down on the left we have more cosmetics and beauty toys. A beauty trolley with mirror, working hairdryer and various cosmetic accessories, a couple of makeup and cosmetics box sets, Palatoy's Fashion Designer which lets you create your own fashion designs using stencil plates and pencil rubbings, a Cindy branded vanity case with accessories, and a Thomas Salter So Simple sewing and embroidery set. Top of the right page starts off with a set of 3 outfits that will fit any Barbie or Cindy type 12-inch dolls, and moving from the top to the bottom here, Barbie has her moment with a playhouse, perfume maker, Star Cycle scooter and a Barbie doll with a set of interchangeable accessories. Cindy gets to show off her special Cindy shower unit at the bottom here, which sprays real water, and poor old Strawberry Shortcake gets consigned to the bottom right corner with her cute looking snail cart, which converts into a picnic table and includes one Strawberry Shortcake, strawberry scented doll. Obviously being a little boy, nothing on this page really floats my boat, but based on what my sister used to like, I'm going to pick the Super Girls World. My sister Elizabeth had the basic Girls World and I know she really loved it, so without a doubt, those extra features in the Super version would have made that toy an awesome choice in our household. Well, this is awkward. I have to pick another girl's toy to play with. Not a massive amount to say here, with 6 dollies to choose from on the left page and 3 cots, although one of the dollies walks, another comes with a moving rocking horse, and of course Tiny Tears at number 5 is well known for drinking, crying and pissing herself. The right hand page is kind of self-explanatory, with 6 prams to choose from, plus 1 pushchair, a high chair and what looks like a nappy changing platform. If I'm going to choose, it'll have to be the Tiny Tears for me. I was going to pick Miss Walkalong, but for me that's just way too creepy. And at the end of the day, what's not to like about a doll that performs bodily functions?
Fascinating.
Bikes, trikes, go-karts and scooters galore, plus a Wendy house and tent to finish off with. These are pretty self-explanatory, and what you pick will depend very much on your age at the time, although the bike or tent option is a potential dilemma. What this page does remind me of though is going out on Christmas Day and seeing all those kids out playing on their new Christmas bikes with massive grins on their faces. I never got a bike specifically for Christmas, but I did have a few different models over the years, my favourite being a cheap grifter knockoff from Woolworths. It was kind of fake, but I loved it. And with that in mind, if I was to pick a bike here, it would have to be the Eagle Seeker bike with 3 gears and a kickstand in the middle of the 3 at the top of the left page. It resembled a rally grifter with its chunky frame and rubberized crossbar, so unless you were ashamed to ride around on a knockoff, which I wasn't, this was a perfect alternative. Now, I did love a good tent when I was a kid and spent many hours playing in mine in the garden, but the item that I'm picking as my favourite here is that grifter knockoff. I can imagine whiling away my evenings, weekends and school holidays racing around up and down the hills on the estate where I lived, having a great time and getting plenty of exercise into the bargain. More vehicles then, and we can see a number of sit and ride scooters here on the left page, most notably the classic red and blue plastic Super Scooter at number 4, baby's first sit and ride toy. And I think we all must have ridden on something like this at some point, but if you're not quite ready for those yet, there are 3 push along toys to choose from in the bottom left to assist you as you learn to take your first proper steps. A very comfy looking fur seated pony rocker up there on the right at number 10, which has adjustable wheels to convert it between a rocking horse and a ride along. The Chad Valley Huggy Bear, which clings to your arm, sits next to 2 Dusty Bin toys. The small one is a plushie and the big one is actually a storage bin with removable lid. Moving down from that, a few more toys for the little ones. The pull-along mouse with tilting head movement, the classic Fisher-Price Jack-in-the-Box, the one that pops up when you press the button and makes a long squeaking sound, a turn and learn activity centre, and 2 toys for the cot, a Music Box Mobile and the Jumping Jack Scarecrow with baby-friendly pull cord. As far as Iconic is concerned, I had to choose between the Fisher-Price Jack-in-the-Box, which, like a lot of Fisher-Price toys, is extremely recognisable, and one of the Dusty Bin toys, which again is a very recognisable character. As I was 6 years old in 1980, I was probably getting a little too old for the Jack-in-the-Box, so my choice would have to be the Dusty Bin storage container. I can imagine having that in my bedroom and storing toys in there, and who didn't love the old 3-2-1 game show featuring the adorable Dusty Bin? A couple more pages of baby and toddler toys coming up, so I'm going to focus on the more recognisable items for now. 4 of the items on page 254 and 255 are ones I remember getting my hands on, but it's been so long now I can't actually remember if they were toys I owned, played with at a friend's house, or whether it was a preschool group, but these definitely ring a few bells, metaphorically and literally. That Fisher-Price Activity Centre at number 4 on the left there was ubiquitous back then, with things to spin, push, squash, slide and flick. It was endless fun for babies and toddlers, and for me too, as I remember enjoying messing around with one when I was a fair bit older than that. The Kiddicraft pull-along Caterpillar below that was always a favourite in play schools and toddler groups. To the right of that, the roly-poly chime ball was always fascinating to play with, as the rocking figures inside moved around when the ball was spun, and there were some very pleasant sounding musical chimes that accompanied the action. The other iconic toy for me here is Mattel's Farmer Say's spinning arrow game at number 10 on the right hand page. I do actually remember where I played with this one. It was at my cousin's house a few streets away. You'd point the arrow at an animal, pull the cord, and the voice of the farmer would tell you what animal it was and what sound it made. The arrow would spin around at the same time and land on a random animal, and you'd pull the cord again to hear more noises. You can still get a modern version of this for just under 20 quid. Compared to the $6.99 in 1980, this is about £30 adjusted for inflation, so technically it's actually cheaper now in 2024. This is the toy I'm picking from this page, as I remember being fascinated by how it worked, and spent ages trying to work out what was going on inside the thing, which for me was part of the fun. Over to page 256 and 57, and my eye is drawn immediately to the Fisher-Price Chatter telephone at number 2. You'd pull it along the floor and it'd jiggle on its wobbly wheels and make these really weird chattery type noises. The Weebles below that at number 6 deserve a mention, as we all know. Another Fisher-Price classic below that, with the Music Box record player. This was a wind-up toy requiring no batteries and played nursery rhymes from 5 double-sided plastic records that were included with the set. On the right page we get a selection of fun playsets, including a doctor's set, tool set, kitchen cooker with accessories, a safari car with animal sounds triggered from the buttons on the bonnet, a sight and sound action dashboard, the Play Boots playset, and a cottage clock playset. It was a close thing between two of the Fisher-Price toys for me, the Chatter telephone and the record player, but the record player pips it, as again it's one of those toys that piqued my curiosity as I tried to work out how it functioned, and with all those interchangeable plastic music discs adding to the novelty value and no batteries required, this one's definitely a keeper. We're heading back up in the age range now with some toys that kids of any age might enjoy playing with. A couple of exciting interactive toys in the top left, starting with that Play Family parking garage which had mechanical lifts for the cars and the people, a turntable for parking, and a super ramp for launching the cars. The Fun Flyer next to that has you piloting a plane around in a circle, avoiding the obstacles as you go. Moving down from there, the Family Treehouse was amazing fun and would close shut for storage when not in use, and the similarly styled Treehouse Playground was designed as an extension to the treehouse. Items 6, 7 and 8 at the bottom represent more goodness from Fisher-Price. The Play Family Airport, the Fun Jet with passengers and luggage, and the Play Desk with 63 accessories including activity cards and chalk. Moving up to the top, the Zip Zap Racetrack looks like a fun novelty, and I remember seeing the advert for this one. You'd pull the levers to raise the track, which would launch the cars around the rest of the course, then repeat this process to try to get your car around the track faster than your opponent. To the right of that, Corgi's battery-operated electric railway set was an affordable way to introduce children to the world of powered train sets. In the top right, next to Alfie the educational robot, it's one that many of you will remember and is often mentioned in the comment sections, Major Morgan, which would allow you to play tunes by inserting the song cards and pressing the symbols as laid out on the cards. I never ever played on one of these, but I do remember the adverts making it look fairly exciting. The page finishes off with a variety of vehicular action games, most notably the Palitoy Big Loader at number 16, a fully automatic battery-operated toy that goes around the track, picking up and unloading cargo as it goes, with trackside keys you could press to vary the route. The Zip Zap track nearly got my vote here, but that Palitoy Big Loader is just too fascinating to ignore. I always had and still do have a love of any toys and novelties that perform complicated, autonomous tasks without any human input. So this is right up my street, and I have to admit, I'd play with that today. A mix of toys for the younger and older kids on pages 260 and 61. We've got a mix of plastic push-along toys and playsets on the left page, the highlight of which is probably number 4, the Fisher-Price Play Family Village, with 2 streets, a fire station, post office, dentist, theatre, rooftop restaurant, police station, barber shop, apartment and garage, plus a selection of cars, figures and accessories to play with. The thing also closes shut for storage, which is always a nice novelty. Over on the right page we start with a classic, Cosmic Fighting Robots, which is probably better known as Rock'em Sock'em Robots, an American toy that was pretty much the same thing. The official British version of Rock'em Sock'em was called Raving Bonkers, so this one was probably another faithful knockoff. Down the right side, from top to bottom, we have Turn the Terrible Tank, which is a frankly terrible name for what looks like a fun 2-player game involving shooting steel ball bearings at the tank to turn it around toward your opponent. Sounds safe. Crazy Maze looks like a prototype of the classic Screwball Scramble. Colossal Fossil Fight looks similar in concept to Hungry Hungry Hippos, but with dinosaurs and bones instead of hippos and balls. Shoots Away had you looking through a reduction lens as you controlled a moving aircraft in an attempt to drop parachutists safely into drop zones. The final 3 at the bottom, a Chips TV show branded motorcycle helmet set, a brilliant looking Professionals TV show branded Crimebuster kit, and a battery operated World Cup football themed pinball machine. Of all the toys on these pages, my choice is an absolute no-brainer. I've always loved pinball, ever since playing on the old 1960s pinball tables in a cafe arcade where my family used to go every year for our summer holidays. And I also went mad for pinball simulators on home computers and consoles when they eventually became a thing, so the pinball machine is, without a doubt, my top choice from this admittedly pretty great selection of toys. And finally, it's the last page of toys in this winter 1980 Argos catalogue. After that, it's the back cover, and ain't nobody got time for that, so here we go. snooker, pool, football, cricket and 2 competitive board games. The table football, snooker and pool tables are self-explanatory, although it has to be pointed out the cue ball tables are less than 4 foot in length, and it was always difficult to play snooker or pool on anything smaller than a 6-foot table. Super Striker looks like a cut-down version of Subbuteo, and the Test Match cricket game is like a cricket version of Super Striker, but with bowlers added into the mix. The 2 games at the bottom are Perfection and Clobber. Perfection was one I had myself, and it was a terrifying race against time to fit all the shaped pieces into the correct holes before the timer ran out. The terrifying part was the sudden popping up of the board if you missed the time limit. Clobber was similar to Ludo, but played on a circular board. The twist was the plastic robot, Mr. Clobber, which players could use to kick opponents' pieces out of position. Now you might have noticed there's a description in the bottom right for number 8, Crossfire, and it's missing from this page. This means there's probably a page missing from these scans, which is a shame, but can't be helped, so for the sake of completion, here's a picture of Crossfire from the 1981 Argos catalogue. Crossfire was a game for 2 players. You'd load up your plastic gun with ball bearings and fire them across the board towards your opponent's goal. The main thing I remember about this game, after playing it at a friend's house, was the terrible blisters I got on my trigger finger from repeatedly firing the plastic gun. I never ever touched the game again after that. The pain just wasn't worth it. So, missing page aside, my final top choice from this part of the catalogue was nearly the snooker table, but these ones are just too small. I played snooker once on a friend's 4-footer, and it was very much like playing with a toy. My family had a second-hand 6-foot table, however, and I can vouch for the authenticity of that size. We were able to have a decent game of snooker and pool on that thing. For this reason, I'm going to choose Perfection as my top choice here, as no matter how many times you play it, it always provides a fun, albeit scary challenge that never gets old. So that was the toy section of the Winter 1980 Christmas Argos catalogue, and remember, if you disagree with my top choices, you can set me straight in the comments. I'd love to hear about your own favourites from these pages. I asked you lot to share your memories of flicking through toy catalogues at Christmas, or of any memorable toys you received around 1980, so here's a selection of your comments from my channel's community section. Mark Rowley looked through the catalogues every year and wanted a Mr. Frosty and one of those miniature Cadbury chocolate vending machines that gave out little dairy milks. These were in every catalogue, as if they were luring him in, yet mocking him, as he never got either. His mother made Christmas special each year, however, and his favourite present ever was his Rally Ultra Burner BMX bike. Vix GB remembers the K's and Great Universal catalogues, and flipping to the back where the toys were. Her favourite picks were Tin Can Alley, Crossfire, a Bubba Yum doll, Mr. Frosty, Buckaroo, Girls World, T-Sets and Striker. Most of these were never received, but some were, and happily so. Bren Probert definitely remembers the joys of searching through Mum's John Noble, Great Universal and Burlington catalogues. They had very little money, so the payment plans on those mail-order catalogues were an affordable option. One particular highlight in the toy section was the vampire game, I Want to Bite Your Finger. But as an 80s child, the most popular items were those franchise toys like Star Wars, Masters of the Universe, Transformers and Thundercats, which dominated the space around the base of their Christmas tree throughout his childhood. David Bowie 2046 always wanted a Tin Can Alley for Christmas but never got one. He got something similar and cheaper though, a cowboy shooting game where you aimed the gun at the cowboy, but he can't remember the name of it. He didn't mind getting a cheaper toy as he knew his parents didn't have much money. On the subject of Tin Can Alley, good advice here from Steve Conway. Never buy Tin Can Alley as a gift and a Gat Gun air pistol at the same time. The two apparently are not compatible. Now I'm guessing something drastic must have happened to that poor Tin Can Alley toy that year. Specky Memories had that Wildfire pinball game around that time, and it was like owning a real table, but a couple of days after Christmas it broke and never worked again despite trying to fix it and forlorn attempts to breathe life into it every few months. Specky purchased it again years later from eBay but realised after one game how crap it was, and nothing like real pinball. Sometimes you shouldn't go back, and I guess memories are best left as memories. And finally, Bretsky777 is all about the Tin Can Alley and received one on Christmas Day in 1977. Sadly, his dad had the first few goes and broke it. To this day, Bretsky has never played Tin Can Alley. Gutted. He thinks it probably came from the Empire Store's catalogue, as most presents were from there over the years. His best ever Christmas presents were bikes. The Rally Boxer and the Rally Bomber were the two he had as a kid. If your memories have been ignited by anything in this video, go ahead and share them in the comment section. And if you want to be featured in a future Retrospectives video, follow me on my various social media platforms where I'll be asking for comments whenever I'm working on something new. You'll find all the links in the video description. We'll finish up in a moment with the full version of that Argos TV advert that's been running in the background. But first I'd like to thank everyone who submitted their comments, to thank you for liking and subscribing, and of course to wish you all a very merry retrospectives Christmas.
A booklet's out that'll help you do Christmas shopping.